all of us went through some shit movie or the other.
They genuinely are not good content.
Is it about quality? It's not about the quality. It's still about the whole package.
And hence the big question, do stars still sell? No, they don't.
The direct to OTT rights sell, that is killing box office potential for sure.
Why is everybody talking about going to that 300 crore and accordingly building a masala product?
The age of blockbuster is not over. Maybe it's over in India.
We are actually creating ambassadors, creating influencers, which were only 1 and 2 early.
There will be a re-looking at the concepts and the films and the formats.
You guys clearly suck at this shit. Okay. Hi everyone. So we are 3 dudes, as you can see, with 3 different professions, but for a common love for marketing. But there's a love for marketing, why we're doing this, and love for brands and abstract things that happen in the world of advertising and marketing. So over to these 2 blokes, because I have no other intelligent way of starting this conversation.
Jenna, I think usually we bongs don't like to let the Orient sort of take over, but I'll let you sort of take
Start with a classy tone.
Yeah.
Very classy. Okay. After the bongs took over the rasgullas, finally the Oreo has taken over this podcast. So yeah, let's talk about this.
Essentially, we're all, as Swami said, we're from the same camp, talking about, I'm saying only the intro, right? So that's what
Okay, let me introduce. You guys clearly suck at this shit. A few days back, we were talking about Bollywood, and I think all of us went through some shit movie or the other. I say shit because these movies were really not good. So when we talk about random movies in an age where marketing seems to be in every screen. I mean, I just saw a beer company tie up with House of Dragons. There is no context, but they are. Which kind of inspired us to think with 3 big mega flops that have happened in the past just few weeks, and in a year where we don't see the idea of blockbuster Bollywood is pretty much over.
Yeah.
What does, and in the age of so much content being drilled out, right, globally and in India on the OTT platforms, where does Bollywood stand, and where does content marketing hence stand, right? And when I mean content marketing, I mean brands finding resonance in content and pop culture. What are the movies we said that really didn't do well? There was Shamshera, there was Lal Singh Chadda, there was
Dobara, Anurag Kashyap, Dobara.
Right? All with big names attached to it. And we come to the star power issue. The age of star power and the age of influencers. But I don't know, what do you guys think?
There is a lot of sort of negative association around this usage of the term Bollywood, but I want to use the term Bollywood just to say that this cohort of people from the Bombay film industry, and I think they are at a loss right now in terms of not having enough fresh ideas with them and what to do next, and it's very apparent in the reactions of these people. So for example, someone like Anurag Kashyap, who I regard as probably one of the most intelligent sort of thought leaders in the extended content and culture space, he's saying stuff like, people are not going to the movies because they can't afford it, which is, I think, as far away from the truth as it could be. Right? We were looking forward to watching something like Lal Singh Chadda, and then to see some of the movies that they have turned out, and they genuinely are not good content. As a viewer, I think I don't want to watch that sort of content anymore, the one that Bollywood etc. churning out today.
So what I essentially feeling right now is there is a lot of diversification of the so-called pop culture. There is this entire comic industry, there is TV series industry, there is Hollywood, there are multiple these pop cultures that are there, the underground rap culture, and lots of these things that are there over there. Over here in India, it used for a major part of our lifetime. It was all about cricket and Bollywood, right? So there was nothing beyond that. And what has happened because of the entire data revolution that came through after Jio came in, there are multiple of these industries which are coming up, which are essentially one nugget of you can say a pop culture. So one part might be this entire OTT revolution that has come up big time about originals which are going through. And there is this whole reel culture, the TikTok culture which was there. We are actually creating ambassadors, creating influencers, which were only 1 and 2 earlier. So everybody was signing off. So I remember specifically around 2000 when it was Hrithik Roshan just came in, and he drew the box office like anything. And that's when each and every brand was after him to do an ad with them. If you cut to right now, not everybody is jumping on the next big thing. It's about the multiple different people who can build that kind of an influence over the audience that is there.
I'm not sure even stars sell hens anymore. That's the question, right?
They don't.
And we'll just hold the thought, because I know there's a counter argument to be made about South cinema, because over there, I mean, everything from RRR to Pushpa to everything, and those are filling up halls like no man's business. And there can be arguments, for movies like that work. It's a set stereotype movie, and star power always was South cinema's deal. And I'm even talking about Liger. Liger also, if it's a flop already. It's been declared a major flop. It's been a 1-star, 2-star. The point is, and I'll pull out a strand of marketing in this one. There is more word of mouth and more Google search about a movie way before the movie happens in India than it ever happened before. People want to be absolutely sure that the movie is good enough for them to step out. And hence the big question, do stars still sell? No, they don't. I mean, even for Anurag, who's known to always vouch for great quality products, even the ones that he's vouching for are not doing well. And Dovada, if you look at the script and the storyline, it's not a bad storyline, it's a good one. So I think people have more options. People are ready to skip more often, right? There is no guilt attached to skipping, right? Because you go to 10 other OTT contents, because then you can find 10 other movies. Hence, what is that big principle for a marketer? What do you do? How do you sell a movie? I don't know.
As consumers, as viewers, we have more options now. And I think this entire window shopping tendency that we have got into, like we go to physical bookstores and we just see what are the books and eventually buy it on Amazon, right? The same thing is probably happening with movies as well. Like literally, I'll tell you my own experience. I went to see Lal Singh Chaddha, and I could hear people who were outside the Inox that I went to thinking कि वो तो आ ही जाएगा 2-3 हफ्ते में Netflix में somewhere, right? So I think the direct to OTT rights sell, that is killing box office potential for sure, because consumers have figured that out. And of course, there is this huge worry still that, is it still safe 100% to go to halls, etc. That's still playing in people's minds, right? So I think that practical reason is also sort of definitely affecting box office. Now to your other point on or question on what to do for marketers, I think the other recent example I'll share where I saw some smart integration was Darlings on Netflix. I read about it. I think there were 14 or 15 brand integrations in the movie, and none of them were like called out in a very in-your-face way. And I as a marketer,
did you spot them?
I did, yes. Like I think the brand of rice was Dawat, there was Tide, and
you spot them because you were looking for them. I'm sure you read the article before the movie.
No, absolutely did not. Like in fact, they did a very smart thing to announce the associations later. And then equally, if I place beside that the integration that Lal Singh Chaddha did for that brand of shoe, Wakadu or something, it was so in your face and then it's so inorganic, right? Just the, what not to do. Like to take Jena's example, when Hrithik Roshan came along, one of those many movies which used Hrithik Roshan to the hilt was Yadein. Yadein probably was like less of Yadein, it was more about Coca-Cola advertisement.
If I may on this one, right? So about bad placements versus good placement, right? So when you talk about pick up any Hrithik Roshan's father's film, Rakesh Roshan's film, and you'll understand there is this Tide thing. I think it was Tide or Surf, which was just there when Rekha was cleaning this thing.
Tide was also there on Darlings, by the way. Tide was there on Darlings also, by
Darlings the way. Also. So and think about the really smart ones. For example, let's talk about the normal quiz question. Like why this thing, the Apple. Is it Apple, right? So why the Apple icon, Apple logo on the MacBook is on the other side and not this thing? Because the whole point was when you keep it up, the screen on the screen you're seeing it like that and will not be ulta on the screen. So that's why they changed the whole look out of it, how it looks in maximum Hollywood movies, and that's a very, very good way to actually. So that's how like really good marketers think about their brands. Basically, till about 3, 4, 5 years ago, when this thing came in about brand integrating with episodes and all of these things were coming up. There was some which was really good. Like I would say the thing. There was this car thing, I think with Tripling or something. That car thing was really good, well done. There was good one, which was of course the beer. That was a brilliant one. So apart from that was the era when a lot of these brands actually had separate budget.
The example that you are citing, all of these are with TVF, right? So all of them, like commonflow.com tied up with permanent roommates or this. And incidentally, I just had the fortune of working with them very closely on a 5-month-old project almost to work the integrations. And I have worked with some of the bigger production houses, some of the biggest for sure, right? And on movies which have become blockbusters, the efforts that Team TVF put in to ensure that the organic integration will be as organic as possible and as in-depth as possible and as seamless as possible is something else. Right. So probably to the original question which we were discussing, that Bollywood is sort of probably losing its plot somewhere. It's at an inflection point. So what are the implications for marketers? I personally see them gravitating towards many of these OTT content producers for integrations, just because of the efforts that they put in and make their brand integration look so organic. Integration.
I was watching this video. We're making a brand presentation. We went from problem to solution to now measurement.
No, but I mean, YouTube integrations, OTT integrations give you much better KPIs and measurements.
Do you remember any of the YouTube ads? Unless Country Delight shows up in every ad.
No, it's not a YouTube ad. I'm saying the content integrations itself. So, what I'm trying to say is,
you do. So everybody has.
Just on the measurement bit, and then Jaina, please, I'll let you sort of make your point. That only the point is, YouTube में आप जब show करते हो ना, it gives you options to check it, the measurement and the impact of it through brand lift studies, etc. वो movie integration में नहीं होगा.
It's actually not about content and content quality. That somebody with Alex's, you would say his intellect would agree with. So, for example, like I'll give you a few examples of how the Bollywood industry per se, from the theaters versus an OTT release. If you talk about a movie called Coolie Number 1, right? Coolie Number 1 was a major hit on Amazon Prime. I think it launched. Yeah, it was a massive hit. But then, if you look at the movie itself, none of would go beyond the first 5, 10, 15 minutes. Yeah. But it was actually a brilliant hit. So, if you say that, okay, you're not getting money, is it about quality? It's not about the quality. It's still about the whole package. So, which is why I'm saying, okay, TVF has done really good work. They have talked about all these things, but then is it actually beyond quality, or is it about the medium itself?
I'm not sure the medium decides the quality. The medium could enhance the quality to enable it. At the end of the day, if it's not quality, it doesn't sell. And you're right there. There's, for the person who makes a movie like Coolie Number 1, and this I'm assuming the Varun Dhawan one, right? For them, that is quality, right? And that's where it becomes critical to understand what defines as quality. A Varun Dhawan doing great dance moves, etc., is quality for the money that the person is ready to pay on OTT, right? So, and the same could explain the RRRs. Right? If you are able to sit in front rows and whistle to movies like that, even in the days of multiplex culture, that's quality entertainment for you. You tend to define quality in your own ways, and that's why probably a lot of the things work. So when Padmavat came out, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was a jewelry brand that associated with it.
I think it was Tanishq only. Yeah.
Right? The movie was rubbish. I mean, for all the hype and the the movie was rubbish. But the point was that, did it sell or did it register a brand like Tanishq beautifully? And at some point it did. Because they were able to capitalize that in so many other ways that very few people understood. But for a person who was out jewelry shopping, for a person who was out, say, planning her wedding or his wedding, right? Those stood out, right? And they worked. The point I'm trying to make is that quality could be defined very differently. For a person who's using these pop culture references as movies, as a point of how it affects his or her life, for them, any movie could be quality. right? I met this one person who said RRR because the date was coming on Netflix. And if you go and see the Netflix US page had the RRR trailer. And people, the comments were buzzing. People were like, I'm going to watch this on day one. They were releasing it and they gave the whole trailer. Basically, they used the shot of the tigers and running through the forest chasing him. And then the last shot was all of them jumping onto the screen with him. Everybody was like, and you should read the comments. It was buzzing. So it didn't mean quality then. It just meant that if you're watching a great masala film, you're watching a great masala film. So if your brand can plug in there, great, right? I don't see an Audi or a BMW plugging into movies like this, which is when they stand out. But would a Tide fit into a movie like this? Maybe, I don't know. Clean dirty clothes as you run through the jungle. But I'm just saying those integrations work from a sense of quality for the person that they're selling it to, right? I don't think Coolie number 1 was meant to the Anurag Kashyap audience. So the brand integration would have never worked. And Dobara was being pitched for the Coolie number 1 audience and hence it flopped.
As a brand, at what stage of the production are you starting the association with? And it's very important. Like if it's pre-production, basically where there are in film or whatever in show placement opportunities which are still there. If you're coming in at that juncture, then the quality by default goes up. Here I'm assuming there is some baseline level of quality in the pen content itself. Whereas at times when the production is already halfway through, all the shots are already thought through, there's only that much you can do in terms of the quality of the in-film placement and association, right? So that is also very important. And again, I just thought I'll share that perspective.
Random partnerships are happening with movies and this thing,
yeah.
Do you need to be even seen in a film? Or you can just go with partnerships. I remember when Batman was coming out, there was this weird tie-up with Oreo. And I was like, fuck knows why. Or Swiggy tying up with Game of Thrones. I mean, what a pointless execution was. I'm sorry. I mean, if someone from Swiggy watches this, there was a dragon for the rider and there was your house, which was a house.
I think it's more about the audience which is watching it and how we are connecting with them and build like a ride on a story itself, right? The story is the dragon story, and which is where the brand is meeting all the people who are watching that thing. And I think it's a brilliant mix because it is on Hotstar. People are watching it on the phone or in basically their home. Right, so and they will lead.
Correct. Yes.
So this is a very good mix. I would say maybe.
Absolutely.
As I said, this is not a mix from a content angle per se.
You need not always have a theme-based thematic association with the content, right? It's actually the lifestyle, occasion, and the exact trigger as well, right? Like you absolutely picked up. I mean, what is the tagline for Netflix? It's Netflix and chill. So any brand which in some way wants to chill has a great reason to tie up with any piece of content on Netflix, for example, right? And it's a fact that we do have junk food while consuming content wherever, whether it became of Thrones on Netflix, etc. Right? Sorry, Hotstar, right? And at some point, I really hope these brands do sponsor some of our future episodes.
So another thing that I wanted to just table it out, right? So I wanted to understand how you guys are thinking about it. Are we creating content for everybody, or is it about just creating sales per se, like the big budget 200,000, 200 crore, 300 crore kind of movie? For example, an 83 could have just targeted 100 crore this thing and made a brilliant movie out of it. Instead, it went up to the entire gamut. Can we not do? Is there a thought behind creating niche products that cater to niche audience, which have very niche kind of a setup that is there, and the profit in the end, it's about creating that 30-40% margin that is there, right? So why is everybody talking about going to that 300 crore and accordingly building a masala product?
Here's a few context points. First, the reference point is always the West. So to say you don't make movies to be blockbusters is a fallacy, because blockbusters do work, right? There are blockbusters. And I'm not sure the superhero movies are the best targets, but look at something like Top Gun Maverick, just working. And it's working because of nostalgia. Tomorrow, right, if Amir Khan wants to starts making Andaz Apna Apna 2, no one is going to stop him. The nostalgia might just work for it, no matter how shit the story, right? So the reference point is doing well with the exact same thing you're saying, right? They are creating hall-filling blockbuster movies. And we always do have a reference point of the West and mostly Hollywood, right? So they're doing well. And all the other new competitive woods from Korea to China to even Southeast Asia. They're making some great movies and blockbuster movies. So the age of blockbuster is not over. Maybe it's over in India, right? The second context is the film industry needs the money. You haven't made theater-filling movies or blockbuster movies in the past 4 years. They need the recovery. So they have to start to create or at least aspire to make those targets of 300, 400 crores, right? Which is critical for them to sail on. Otherwise, they won't. And how much money do you expect Netflix or Amazon of the world to pump in and create movies out of their studios, right? So those two contexts are critical to understand why people are still aiming that. So it's not going to go away anytime. You're still going to have a Karan Johar trying to make whatever he's trying to make with Ayan Mukherjee. They are aiming for those big machines and big churning out. Yash Raj is just waiting to take the leap. Yeah, but they are more measured in their leaps normally. It's not going to go away. It's going to continue to happen. And brands like us will go and start sponsoring. It's going to continue. I mean, I just saw a beer brand with them. I'm still buzzed with why HBO is doing random tie-ups. And a beer brand with this thing. I'm like, why?
Like the Aapke Hai Koun days when people were not going to, families were not going to cinemas. At that point of time, I don't think the movies were making so much money. Yeah. So what Aapke Hai Koun did really well, I don't know if you have the background behind this, but essentially what Rajshri did was they only gave the reels to those theaters which adhere to a certain quality standards that will bring in the family crowds back. Stage 2 happened in somewhat around 2000s when all these multiplexes saw that now families are going in for movies. Now let's create this entire environment, which is where multiplexes started mushrooming across the world. And that's where whatever monies that these guys were making early 90s versus mid 90s to 2000s actually became exponentially higher, and which is where the budgets became larger, right? But all that was happening was the actor's paycheck was about 60 to 70% of whatever they were making up, right? So which is where everybody wants to do 100 crores, otherwise they'll not earn any money. And half of it is actually going to the pocket of the star. So that's a major thing that happened 2019 till 2019 when COVID hit. People stopped going to the cinemas. And then this thing started hitting really hard to the audience that, okay, why should we be going to the theaters at all? Right now, you cannot build every product to be a 150, 200 crore kind of product, which makes 250, 300 crores. Expectation is to build that 50, 60 crores profit out of the project. Now, I think we should go back and start creating the products which are 40, 50 crores and maybe make 50, 60 crores. And it's still making a 30% profit margin that is there. So that's essentially, you're not making the quantums, but at least you're doing the percentages. So that makes brilliant sense.
I mentioned Anurag Kashyap in the beginning, and I think Akshay Kumar's reflection on the current inflection point that Indian cinema is at. Akshay mentioned a couple of weeks back that we are doing something wrong, right? So we need to introspect in terms of the content offering and the packaging itself, which I think was the closest to an admission from any of the celebrated stars that they need to just rethink their game. So and I think to your point, Jenna, I think there will be a re-looking at the concepts and the films and the formats that will come out from now on in some way or the other. Either the ticket size, like you're correctly saying, will be relooked at, or a new model like what Amir Khan follows. By the way, Amir Khan doesn't take a fee; he takes a cut of the profits that the movie makes. He's an exception that way. Probably that will become the norm now. So to make the actors a little more, accountable. The other thing that we will probably see waning, and that's my prediction, is that what I've heard at least in Bollywood, many of the stars are really against the idea of sharing screen space with the other, unlike let's say South. So I think that will happen a lot more in Bollywood, that we will see single sort of actors not being the case anymore, or largely that won't be the case. So that probably will also change as well. And I think the other thing is definitely on the distribution front. So direct to online, direct to OTT will probably become an option. I mean, completely will be given to people at a ticket size that you can, see it on demand or something like that.
They'll start asking for premiere tickets online also.
Yeah,
I've seen that happen very soon. They're going to charge differently for star movies versus newcomers. That won't be a surprise. I'd be interested to see how the theatre world innovates. more, close knit or more larger halls coming back. I think the idea of balcony seats has died in the multiplex era.
Yeah.
Maybe those might come back. But it's
Balcony,
good.
I heard that term after like ages. Balcony.
For example, I live in Bangkok, right? So for example, in all of these multiplexes over here, if there are like 10 screens, 8 or 10 screens, all of them would have a different feel to it. Meaning, one of the screens would be on kids, this thing. One will be like
Nice.
a small 20-seater or 30-seater kind of a thing. One will be a couple thing. This is about giving not the content of the movie, but the experience around it and playing it out. And accordingly, what we cannot play out in our homes right now. So, for example, all these Hollywood movies which make money in India are not actually the good content movie per se. They are the superhero movies. They are the larger than life Jurassic Park and all these kind of movies, because that experience that you get in the theater will not be replicated at home, or it's worse on the phone or on the tablet that you're trying to look at it. So so that experience has to be built, and I think as a marketer, I would build into that experience in a very, very good sense.
I think you bring in a fascinating point that, how do we essentially sort of build a product in the content space, targeting this, really distracted consumer today. Like, look at Oni right now. Like, he's here with us, but he's not here with us as well. He's looking at his screen. That is a fascinating problem to solve as a marketer and a content producer today, right? So I'm
approving budgets. You BITCH.
So why do you wrap it up? Like, simply say, why does it have to have conclusion?
Okay. Oh, now nice. That's the thing. Why does it need to have a conclusion? Yeah.
So that's it for today. We're done. Funny, you just that 2 seconds. That's a great way to finish this thing. Let's. What happened?
Oni. I think we lost Oni.